What's going on, people? Welcome back to Curtis Shaw TV, back with another live stream. And it's Friday, people. The weekend is finally among us. Arsenal back in action tomorrow against Fulham. Make sure you join us for the watch along for that one. Looking forward to that game, hoping it's 3-point collecting. And lots to talk about on this Friday. Waffle settings from Arteta again. Two players set to leave, as you can see in the title. I'll be talking why I think it's good and why I think we've also, took a big risk by letting these two particular players go. So we're going to talk about that. We're being linked with another player again, a player that we've spoken about before, but links to them today. And we'll speak about that as well, people. Big up. The clear out begins. Spoke about it yesterday. 7 players we're trying to get rid of before next Friday's transfer window closes. It looks like 2 of them are gone. Can we get rid of the other 5? We've probably got rid of 2 of the best ones. There's still some, there's still some rubbish that needs taken out there. No disrespect, but, let's keep it a buck, man. There's some players that we would have liked to have seen sold probably before Kieran Tierney and Folarin Balogun. And what I'm also going to be talking about is, does the Kieran Tierney deal leave us short? Does it leave us short, people? Arteta said one of the reasons last season we didn't win the title was because of the strength in depth. Have we left ourselves a little bit short? But we'll talk about it. Big up to everyone tuned in. It's Friday settings, people. Chelsea play Luton tonight. And then, obviously, we play Fulham tomorrow. I think Newcastle, Liverpool on Sunday. So we're going to be doing watch-alongs, shows, and plenty of bits and bobs. Big up to everyone locked in. Sure on tour. Yeah, we won't be talking about him today. Per sure. Or whatever his name is, who we were linked with yesterday. But great banter as usual. And big up to everyone who voted in the content awards. The link's in the description below again, and all the details there. If you're willing to support your boy, I appreciate it. And if you have already, then big up your damn selves. Man United being linked with Ryan Bertrand. I mean, boy, any Man United fans in the chat, man? Imagine telling a Man United fan 3 months ago, when it looked like they were going to get a Qatar takeover, you'll be signing Johnny Evans and potentially Ryan Bertrand. Ryan Bertrand, who doesn't even have a club right now, he's been released. And Johnny Evans, who played for them about 5 years ago. I mean, it puts things into perspective, I can't lie. Because if we were signing Ryan Bertrand and Johnny Evans, let me tell you, man, I'd be saying some things on here, but anyway, Man United, you got a problem. K Hayes, big up Big C. Yesterday was my 51st birthday. I drank a beer for every year. Spurs haven't won a trophy. The rest was history. Must have been a long night, bro. I can't lie. Big up Bleck in the chat. Hope you're well. Zeke said, big up Big C in the community. We're still 3 players short. I agree. I would like a midfielder and a striker. Maybe a right winger and maybe a defender now. So maybe even 4. But yep, definitely. Big up Monty in the chat. Cone man business. The meltdown, I'd be wild. Can you imagine me doing this stream talking about Ryan Bertrand? They'd probably have to ban me from YouTube by the end of that stream. I'd be in big trouble. Let me just say that. Hey, big up that guy D. Yeah, links in the description for voting, content awards. All the details are down there. If you can vote, it would be much appreciated. We want to go trophy collecting as usual. Right, let's get into today's show, people. Kieran Tierney. This is such an interesting situation. I don't really know. Oh, what's going on here? I don't really know. I don't really know if this is good news or bad news. I suppose I just have to embrace it and see if it works out, people. A year or so ago, people were saying this was the future Arsenal captain. One of the best left-backs that's played for the club since Ashley Cole. He was everything we were looking for. Now I'm like, well, let's just discuss it. Kieran Tierney to Real Sociedad. Here we go. Verbal agreement between the clubs on a season-long loan. No buy option. That's probably the one part of this whole deal that baffles me, right? And we're going to discuss it in more detail. But yeah, Kieran Tierney, he will join Real Sociedad on loan. No buy option, no buy obligation. Tierney has agreed to move, medical being scheduled. Now, let's discuss it. Now, they're paying a small loan fee. Hasn't been revealed how much that is. Could be anything. Could be 500,000, could be 1 million, could be 3 million. Who knows? But they haven't revealed it. So they've paid a small loan fee to take Tierney. The positive thing, they're going to pay his whole wage, right? They're going to pay the full wage. I think he earns around 110, 120 grand a week. And the Spanish league may suit him, although apparently he loves training in the snow, so it might be too hot for him in Spain. So, listen, positive wages. Apart from the wages, I honestly don't see many positives around this deal. Now, some people will go, if he goes to Sociedad and does well, then, somebody will buy him or they'll buy him, But there's a flip side to that, because the reality of the situation, what if Kieran Tierney goes there and doesn't play well? What if Kieran Tierney gets injured? What? Then what? Then we're back to square one next year trying to sell a player that we couldn't sell this year. Why can't we sell him? In a world where Scott McTominay is getting £30 million offers, so is the fridge Harry Maguire. Why can't we get 20, 25, 30 million for Kieran Tierney? Left backs are not even... There aren't loads of good left backs around the world. This should be an easy sell. I don't get it. Scarrett said, Big C, can you please shout out son Kai for having his son 5 days ago? Really traumatic birth. Both baby and mother doing well. Bless up, bless up. More life, more life. Big up Kai, big up your son. Another gooner born into the community. Big up yourself. Blessings to you and the family. Yeah, Kieran Tierney, stronger than a Tesco bag. Kieran Tierney, lad. Here we go. He trains in the snow. He's stronger than a Tesco bag. He's off. He's on his way out. I'm going to be totally honest. I remember when I put a picture up on the USA tour with Edu. This guy messaged me. I forget his name. He was like, oh, that's it. You will never say anything negative about Edu now you've taken a picture with him. And I said, no, I won't. I'll praise him if he does well. I'll say it's not a good deal if it's not a good deal. It's all the details in the description, bro. I'm going to be totally honest. I think this is a poor deal for Arsenal Football Club. I'm going to keep it 100. Picture, whatever. I'm here to speak the truth, people. As an Arsenal fan, I don't look at this deal in a positive way. I'm not sure how I can look at it in a positive way. What's the positive? Like, okay, you've got the wages off the wage bill. All right, yeah, that's great. But what else? To me, I look at it like this. Let's break down cold, hard facts. That's all I'm here to speak about. Our number one left back is Zinchenko. I like Zinchenko. I think he's very good on the ball. I don't think he's an elite defender. He's not a natural defender. Now, Zinchenko played 27 Premier League games last season out of 38. He missed 11 games through injury. He's missed the whole pre-season. He didn't play the Community Shield. He didn't play the first league game. And he came on for 15 minutes in the second league game. So, listen, we don't know what's going to happen with Zinchenko. He might play every single Premier League game and every single Champions League game. But it's not likely. It's not likely. So, if Zinchenko misses a game... Somebody tell me who plays left back for Arsenal, because it ain't Timber. We're not seeing Timber for the foreseeable future, right? You're only selling. You're only seeing Timber at the end of the season or the beginning of next season. So who's the left back? Tomiyasu. Well, I saw Tomiyasu at left back on Monday, and I didn't like what I saw. And I don't think he's that good at left back. He played left back in pre-season against Man United, and he was struggling. He was struggling in that game. He played left back and right back in that game. And what, you're going to play Kivior? I'm sorry. For me, as I said, I'm breaking down cold, hard facts. Zinchenko, Kivior, Tomiyasu, none of them are better defenders than Kieran Tierney, if we're talking just purely on defending. Now, we know style of play. He wants an inverted left back, which Zinchenko is, which Kieran Tierney isn't. But surely it's a good idea to have one that can do something and one that can do something else. There might be a day where you need a conventional left back. We found that out last year at Anfield when Trent was nutmegging Zinchenko and reduced the man to tears, right? Everyone said that day, oh, we should have taken off Zinchenko and brought on Tierney because defensively he is better. I believe we have weakened our squad with this transfer. We're getting a small loan fee. Yeah, the wages are paid. There's no obligation to buy him. So there's a massive question mark over the whole deal. The deal makes no sense to me. The deal, okay, yeah, go Sociedad, do well, and we sell him. That's best case scenario. That is best case scenario. But there's no guarantees that's going to happen. So for me, I don't understand the deal. If there was an obligation to buy him, 25, 30 million, no problem. No problem. Jean-Rene said you're ignoring the player. I did see your previous comment. I wanted to... I want to add balance to the debate because some of you believe that the deal is all right. I mean, Luke said, I disagree. I think it's a good deal for us. Sure, would have preferred a permanent fee of 40 million. We obviously weren't getting a fee anywhere near what we seeked. A loan is better than him not playing. Is him being on loan at Sociedad better than him being at Arsenal as our second choice left back? If Zinchenko gets injured or suspended, I would rather he was the backup left back to Zinchenko. I could be totally wrong. Some of you may disagree. We're going to put a poll up. It's quite simple. It's Friday. More polls than an Atlanta strip club, people. Do you agree? No, do you agree with loaning out Tierney with no obligation to buy? Are you happy? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with Tierney going on loan with no obligation to buy? Yes or no? Simple facts. Because me, it's a no. I would rather Kieran Tierney was on the bench. He could have still played Carabao Cup. He could have still played FA Cup. He's your rotation. Now, the reality of the situation is this. Let's also add balance to the debate, right? At Arsenal at the moment, he is probably genuinely fifth choice left back. Probably fourth now that Timber is injured. It was Zinchenko, Timber, Kivior, Tomiyasu in whatever order. Then Kieran Tierney. He's fifth choice. Why? Because he can't invert. Because he plays like what you would call a regular left back, where he wants inverted. And we know inverted is the buzzword at the moment. I understand, and like I said, Monty said, surely not. I understand some people saying, listen, we weren't being offered the fee that we wanted, so it made sense to get him out and play football and hope that his value increases and we sell him next summer. I understand what the club are doing. I totally understand it. But do I agree with it? No, I don't. Because nobody can properly justify to me that Tomiyasu is a better left back than Kieran Tierney and Kivior's a better left back than Kieran Tierney, because they're simply not. They're simply not better left backs than him. But is what it is. We just got to deal with the cold hard facts. He's gone. He's going on loan. Somebody just said there, Zubimendi. Yeah, well, now we're friends with Sociedad. Maybe we get Zubimendi as a favour for a favour, but we'll see. Listen, let's put it in perspective for Kieran Tierney. And for Arsenal potentially in the future. Number one, he goes to Real Sociedad. Now, Real Sociedad, to put things into perspective, they're in the Champions League this season. So let's hope we've at least got a clause in his contract that he can't play against us if we get them in the Champions League. He goes to a club that are in the Champions League. There's some good players there. They play good football. And he may be better off in a less physical league. On top of that, I suppose the fact there's no obligation keeps the door open to the fact he could come back to Arsenal next season. You never know. He goes there as a great season. Maybe we change our mind. You know, Tomiyasu could leave. I mean, Mike said Tomiyasu is better. Fair enough. It's your opinion. I don't agree with it, but you're entitled to it. King Emery said Tomiyasu got one good game at left back versus Salah. He did. And don't get me wrong. I don't think Tomiyasu is terrible. I just don't think he's better left back than Tierney. And listen, we get the full wage off the books, which, as I said on yesterday's show, our wage bill is very high at the moment, because if we're trying to sell 7 players, Pepe 130 grand a week, Tierney 110 grand a week, Cedric 70, Holding 60, you're probably talking about 500,000 in wages on unwanted players. So Listen, he's got 3 years left on his deal. He'll still have 2 years left when he comes back. But, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. I have to read this comment. Big up Vance, who said, yo, Big C, can I get a big up? It would be a mood lift up today. He lost his mother yesterday, and it's raining emotions, rainy day in Martha's Vineyard. Listen, shout out to you, Vance. Hope you and the family are all right. Blessings to you and your family. And yeah, man, let's hope we can lift your mood up slightly, man. I appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, man, I'm sure the community will big you up as well, man. Hope you're well. But yeah, Tierney goes to Sociedad on loan. All the best to him. All the best to him. What I always find strange with Arsenal, and I suppose, listen, not strange because I suppose it's obvious. We sell our better players before we sell the worst players. Now, I suppose that's obvious because more clubs will want those players. You're going to struggle more to get rid of players, you know, like Holding and like Tavares and players like that than you are to get rid of Tierney and Balogun. Kieran Monreal will grow at Sociedad. I actually think he will probably do well in Spain. Less physical. He's been quite injury prone at Arsenal. It's quite sad because I think we're looking at it now going, it makes you feel like Tierney has not been that successful a deal at Arsenal, really, when I think we had such high hope and expectation for him when he joined. It felt like an absolute bargain at 25 million, but I think it's a shame that he's gone. I really do. He only played 15 games in his first season, so he missed 23, played 27, missed 11, played 22, missed 16, and then played 27, missed 11. So he's missed a lot of football at Arsenal. So I think Tierney clearly wanted the move as well. So good luck to him. We'll all be keeping an eye on Real Sociedad. I just think what the frustrating part for me is that we could be in this situation in 12 months where Sociedad don't buy him and we're trying to sell him again, you know, and that's my problem. I think it would have been better if you had a guarantee of a move afterwards, but it is what it is. I would have liked to have had that option. Tierney is the guy you bring on to see a game out defensively after we are winning. You want to give Zinni or Timber a rest. We should keep him 100%. I agree with you on that. Raul said, Big C, his stock is not as high as Arsenal fans gas him up. No buying offers. Injury record. Game has evolved. He was not playing. Why to keep players hostage? Manager don't rate him. Well, yeah, but is he rating players above him that he's better than? Listen, it is what it is. It is what it is. Tony said it's his mum's anniversary on Monday since she passed. You helped me all along the way. Hey, big up, man. That's what this is what this channel is about, man. Community settings, man. And Leigh said the other thing is that nobody really came in for Tierney. Many teams don't seem to rate him in England. Is it the injury record? Because, you know, I look at Chelsea spending 30 million on Lewis Hall, who's hardly played a first team game at Chelsea, but wouldn't spend 30 million on Kieran Tierney. We do have to also acknowledge, just to add some balance to the debate, that why were teams not willing to sign Kieran Tierney? What is the problem? Is it because they don't think he's good enough on the ball? Is it because of his injury record? There is a problem because I don't see why Villa, Newcastle, all these teams that were linked with him have not made a financial offer to buy him. Even Sociedad were not willing to buy him. So, yeah, the reality of the situation, I mean, Gabby said it there. Yeah, he doesn't suit the style. So again, as I always say, these big decisions, they fall on the manager. And he's sticking by it, so we just need to see if it works now. I personally, and somebody just said it there as well, I think he would have done really well at Newcastle. So it is what it is. Let's end the first poll of the day. Are you okay with loaning out Tierney with no obligation to buy? 63% of you say no. And 37% say yes. So more of you think that we shouldn't have loaned him without an option. I think it's the injury record. I agree with your B-signs. As I said there, he's never even played 30 games out of a 38-game Premier League season. That probably worries people. Mike said he isn't versatile, which is a good point. You look at a lot of fullbacks nowadays can play in another position or in the opposite fullback position. Zinni can play in midfield and things like that, attacking mid. Tierney is very much 100% a left back. So it's a big year for him. He needs to go and do his job at Sociedad. He either comes back to Arsenal or we sell him. Let me read out your super chats. Don't want people to think I'm ignoring them. I have saved them all. Robbie said Tierney is twice the player to Tomiyasu and Kivior at left back. Arteta's first big boo-boo of the season. Watch this space. Ridiculous business. Not happy. Robbie is not happy with that deal. And I understand. El said it sucks, but Arteta has his favourites. And like I've always said, systems make teams, players make systems. He has a system that this player is not comfortable playing in. And the reality of the situation, no matter how much I rate Tierney or you rate Tierney, he doesn't fit the system. It's better for Arsenal to get him out of the books or off the books. I would have just liked to have seen a guaranteed fee at the end of the loan. That's probably my biggest issue. Dwayne said, big up my son Milo, Big C, signing for West Brom on Wednesday, 7 and a goalie. Big up Milo. Listen, man, I know what it's like as a parent having a son in that academy system. It's not easy. It takes a lot of effort. But good luck, man. It's the start of the ladder. Hopefully you can climb that ladder. Big up, Dwayne. And your son. Bleck said, Champions League, Kivior at left back, striker Eddie against Real Madrid. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine it? You know? And it's not unlikely because Gabriel Jesus is injury prone and Zinchenko's been injury prone. So this is my point. But, you know, the manager, he makes tough decisions. He sees these guys every day. So let's see if it pays off. It's a risk. Simon said, I think he requested more game time with the Euros coming up. I'm sure they'd have preferred to sell and buy a replacement. Yeah, Euros, players want to play. This is a big year. You can't afford to sit on the bench. Cormac, Curtis House tricks. Would Daichi have taken Tierney? I mean, listen, mate. Of course I'd have taken Kieran Tierney. I'd be an idiot not to take him. If you look at the state of that defence, they got Ashley Young at left back at the moment. There's nothing young about Ashley Young. He's about 107 years old. You got Seamus Coleman at right back. He's 427 years old. I would have taken Tierney in a heartbeat. But we'll be in the Championship next season anyway, so no problem. There we go. Big up Cormac, who always gets the Daichi interview. El said Arteta is stubborn, playing inverted fullbacks all the time isn't always going to work. Sometimes you need a traditional left back. Well, you know, anything Pep can do, I can do better. Yes, I can, and however the song goes. But yeah, he definitely likes the Pep situation, don't he? And Pep loves inverted, so he's on it. And Simon said injury record, 140k wage bill. Hall was on 7k a week, so they put him on 35k, 20 million cheaper than Tierney over 4 years. And I do get that point. I do definitely understand that point for sure. I didn't realise Hall was only on 7k. So I understand it. Big up everyone in the chat. Yeah, Cormac always seems to try and get the Sean Dyche impression. Yeah, but yeah, big up everyone locked in. Nearly 2,000 of you already in. Pep Teta settings, man. Pep Teta settings. Don't be surprised if he shaves his hair off one day and turns up, you know, looking like Pep. Anyway, let's move on. One down and another one on his way out of the door. This discussion will be a little bit shorter because I've probably spoke about this guy 20 times over the summer at least. But he's on his way. It's going to happen. Monaco and Arsenal have reached an agreement over the transfer of Folarin Balogun, worth around 45 million euros. Bonuses included. Balogun will sign a 5-year contract. Listen... Again, it's a difficult one because he's a player that I like and I've spoken about it multiple times. What I feel uncomfortable with at Arsenal is when you're selling players and you're keeping players who I don't believe are as good as the players that you're selling. I know it's very simple to put it in those terms, but to me, Balogun is better than Eddie, but you're selling Balogun. Tierney is a better left back than Tomiyasu, but you're getting rid of Tierney. But, you know, context, circumstances, I understand, you know, play a big role. And we've spent 210 million. Balogun doesn't want to play, you know, backup dancer. He doesn't want to be the coleslaw on the side of the plate. He wants to be the big fish. He wants to be the main man. And he's not willing to sign a new contract. 2 years left. They've decided to cash in. And I suppose that's just the reality that we have to face. Again, as I said yesterday, I just hope this isn't Serge Gnabry part 2. I really hope it's not. I hope that, I hope for the best of his career. I hope he has a very good career. But if he becomes a superstar, then we're going to have a big problem on our hands. But is what it is. Like you said, Prince, surely we would have put a sell-on clause of at least 20%, because if he goes to France, scores 30 goals, he could be at PSG in a couple of years' time. But yeah, I mean, like South London's saying, this would level Arsenal's record ever transfer of £40 million, which I find unbelievable during the circumstances, to believe that this guy, or not even this guy, that Arsenal have not managed to sell a player for £50 million. When you think that we've sold, Fabregas and Van Persie, I suppose those guys were quite some way back, which is probably why we haven't. But yeah, it's something we need to improve on. I mean, Enes said it's good business given the circumstances. I think with it being so late. I mean, L. said, strongly disagree. Balogun is not better than Eddie. This geezer performed okay as the focal part of a mediocre French team where he took all the pens. Let's not forget how crap his performances were for the first team. I would have sold both him and Eddie. Where I'm gonna, push back on that argument is Balogun is a young player who went to a league that, okay, people say it's a substandard league, but nobody would have a problem signing Mbappe. Nobody has got a problem with Saliba being at Arsenal, who came from that same league. So I think that argument falls flat on its face, really. He went there at 21 years of age after a difficult loan spell at Middlesbrough, scored 20 plus goals in a bang average team. Where they don't win every week. I think he proved a lot. And saying that, he didn't prove himself in the Arsenal team. He played 2 times for Arsenal in the Premier League. Neither one of them were starts. So, I'm not... And also, when people talk about penalties are not open goals. It's not... Anybody can miss a penalty. I've seen Messi and Ronaldo miss penalties. So, listen, my point with Balogun is... he hasn't been given an opportunity. He has not had an opportunity. As Arsenal fans, none of us really know how good Balogun could or couldn't be at Arsenal because he hasn't had the opportunity. Now, a lot of us have watched him in France. He banged a lot of goals in. Some people say that he's not the most prolific. Some people say his all-round game is not that good. But my point is, how good is Eddie Nketiah's game? And he has had the opportunities. So that's my only point. That's my only point. I don't think we should say, he's not good enough, because we haven't seen him. We have not seen him. And I've seen Eddie, and I don't think he is good enough. Dembele said Nketiah scored 4 goals in 30 games last season, and Arsenal prefer him to Balogun. You know what I mean? We're here to have that discussion. I mean, DV said, I think Eddie would outscore him in the Farmers League. Well, we would never know. We would never. He went to Leeds. He didn't do too well. They sent him back. They sent him back 6 months early. So he didn't do that well in the Championship. Balogun didn't do that well in the Championship, to be fair. But, I'd rather go off the facts than the possibilities. There's a possibility Eddie could go France and bag, but it's a fact that Balogun has gone to France and bagged. I'd rather work with facts. Somebody said, people saying there's an agenda against Eddie. I mean, listen, while we're talking about Balogun, I'm just going to quickly give you my point of view on Eddie, because I know at the moment Eddie is a big discussion point on a lot of channels. And, for me, everything falls into context. Everything is about context. A lot of the time, the argument that is used for Eddie is that he's a backup player, which is fair enough. A lot of the time, your backup player is not as good as your first team player. My problem with Eddie is this. I'm now looking at Arsenal to try and win the Premier League, or at least compete to win the Premier League. The level has gone up. We're not the Arsenal from 2 years ago finishing 8th that were just happy to get a Europa League spot because we'd fallen so far down. We're now starting this season going, can we win the Premier League? Can we challenge Manchester City and push them all the way? That's number one, right? I don't think Eddie Nketiah is a particularly bad footballer. I think he can play in the Premier League. I think he could probably get you 10, 11 goals. I think he's an okay footballer in the Prem. My problem is, I don't think Eddie is good enough to play for Arsenal. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because number one, if you're trying to win the league, you should be trying to match or go beyond the level of the person or team at the top. And that is Manchester City. Manchester City's backup striker is Julian Alvarez, the guy that started up front for Argentina and won the World Cup. You could argue Alvarez is probably on the same level as Gabriel Jesus when you look at how often Jesus gets injured. So their backup player is probably as good as our number one striker. And because Gabriel Jesus is injury prone, Eddie Nketiah will play more games for Arsenal than we probably would want him to, which means he's not just a backup player. We're putting him in there and saying, right, you're the focal point. Because Jesus was injured for 3 months last season. He's been injured at the start of this season. People now use this thing that if you've got criticism of a player, it's an agenda. Why is it an agenda? I thought supporting your football club meant you want the best for your football club. Does any Arsenal fan really believe that if Eddie Nketiah started up front for a long period of time during the season, that would be enough to win the Premier League? Because I can tell you now, it wouldn't. I don't need to look into the future. It wouldn't be enough. If Haaland gets injured, Alvarez is a very, very good replacement. I'd take Alvarez at Arsenal, by the way. He's that good. He starts for Argentina. He would start for a lot of teams. Eddie is not as good as their backup striker. Even Liverpool have got Núñez, Jota, Gakpo, who can all play through the middle. It's not no agenda. It's nothing personal. We're a fan. We want the best for the football club. Is Eddie capable of leading Arsenal to a title? No. He's 24 years of age. He's improving. He's working hard. But you ain't going to win a title if he plays a lot of games up front for Arsenal. You need somebody like Ivan Toney. You need somebody like Osimhen. We might actually need an upgrade on Gabriel Jesus. That's the level we need to be trying to get to if we're trying to win the league. And I love Gabriel Jesus, but we might actually need a better goal scorer than him. So when people telling me, oh, Eddie, you've got an agenda against him. He came through our youth system. To be honest, I don't care what youth system you came through, because you've just been Balogun like he's nothing, and he came through our system. Yeah, Martinelli's one of our best players, and he didn't come through our system. So, I don't care what system you came through. I want you to be good enough. The system, the level's gone up. We need to lift the levels. A few years ago, we were 8th, happy to just finish in a Europa League spot. Now we're trying to win the Premier League. We're trying to win the Prem. If you want to win the Premier League, the level has to go up. Sometimes there's collateral damage. Holdings, El Nenes, and Nketiahs. It's been a beautiful journey. You train hard. You smile well. Brilliant. But the level has to go up, people. And listen, like I said, no agendas, but the level's got to go up. We're up against a machine right now in Man City. A machine. We can't be, because the celebration's wavy, and I'm not interested in all that. Bang goals in. Bang goals in. That's the only way. I'm not saying he can't change or improve. He might be. He might score 20 goals this year and shut me up. But at the moment, I don't think he's good enough. I don't. But anyway, my opinion. And a lot of you in the chat agree. Some of you don't. Let's have a look. Big C, people say there's an agenda because he started 2 games and scored a goal and won a penalty, and he's being criticised. If it was Balogun, it would be different. Now, DV, I think the opinion, I can only give my own opinion here. He's being criticised, one, because in the second game, he missed a sitter that could have cost us the game. First game, I didn't hear any criticism for him against Forest. I thought he played well and took his goal well. I actually think he had a good game against Palace, but strikers are judged off their chances and putting them away. He missed a sitter. It's not like Eddie's just got in the first team. If this was Eddie's first season in the first team and we'd watched 2 games and he scored 1, we were going, oh, Eddie looks all right. There might be a player there. We watched Eddie last season score 4 Premier League goals in 30 appearances. And the season before, he was starting to come off the bench and get involved. Eddie ain't a new player. I've watched Eddie for 2 seasons. It's not about these 2 games. 2 games, he's done all right. Absolutely no doubt about it. He's done all right in the first 2 games. But we've seen him for over 2 years. So people go, oh, it's only 2 games in. So what, do the previous 2 years not count? And that's just my opinion on him. That's where I'm at with him. Not everyone will agree. Let's get into a few of your comments. Balogun's on his way. I don't think there's a need really to even discuss this too much. We've known he's going for a while. You know, I don't understand why not, but at the same time, you spend 200 million, the owner wants some money back, you know? Eddie isn't clinical enough. He's been here for seasons. He's not a new signing. And listen, I'm more than willing to have an honest discussion with anybody in the comments. Be respectful. Don't just say you've got an agenda. No, there's no agenda. There's no agenda. We're football fans. We want the best for the club. You didn't hear any criticism after the Forest game. Half our fans wanted to start Trossard in the Palace game. Well, I think the reality is Trossard had an outstanding pre-season. And I think people can see that when Trossard plays through the middle, not only is he a goal threat, he's very good at linking up with our 2 wingers. Our 2 wingers are our best attackers at this moment in time. They scored the most goals for us last year. They're lethal. I think if you was playing against Arsenal, Martinelli and Saka are the dangers. And I think Trossard improves those 2. I think Gabriel Jesus improves those 2. I think when Eddie's playing, I mean, Mike's saying people were criticising him, saying his shot took a deflection. I can't speak for everyone. I never said anything about that. I don't care if his shot takes 5 deflections. I'll still celebrate it. But I think people feel that Jesus and Trossard improved the 2 wingers, where I don't think Nketiah improves the 2 wingers. I just don't. I don't think it's any coincidence that our wingers' levels, especially Martinelli, seem to improve when Jesus is in the team. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I think Eddie has got a great work rate. I think he's willing to learn, willing to work. I do think he's improved. I think he's a better player than he was 2 years ago. But I don't think he can win us a title. And I know he's not the main striker. He is a backup. But we know that Jesus is injury prone. Also, people go, it's just a backup. But if your main striker's having a bad game, you take him off. You need the backup to have some real qualities because often they come on and win you games. We're in the Champions League this year. We might play Madrid, Barca, Bayern. Look at the levels that these people are bringing on. Levels got to go up, people. The fans was backing selling Saliba because of the manager. Then he put egg on Mikel's face, as would... Yeah, I mean, well, it's a difficult discussion, that, because a lot of people feel that Arteta may have sold Saliba, but there's no factual evidence. We've all maybe got an opinion. I think the fan base were very supportive of Saliba and almost put pressure on the club to keep him. Matt said, I hear what you're saying, Big C. If it was me, I'd sell both Eddie and Balogun. Now, let me tell you one thing. I've got no problem with Arsenal selling both of them. This ain't me saying, oh, you can't sell Balogun, you know, unless you sell... No, if you sold Eddie and Balogun and signed a top striker, I'd have no problem. I've no problem. You know what I mean? I've got no... Even with Balogun, there's question marks. Can he do it in the Prem? Is his link-up good enough? But we never seen it to give him the opportunity. That was my issue. But clearly Arteta has looked at him. He went on the US tour... And he obviously doesn't feel he's the kind of player that he can work with. And like I always said, certain systems suit certain players. And Tierney doesn't suit the system. Zinchenko does. Balogun doesn't suit the system. You know, so it is what it is. But listen, Balogun's gone. Or he's going. Deal hasn't been completed. But it'll be £40 million, which unbelievably will be our joint highest ever sale. And I think Balogun will cook over there in France. I think he'll really do well over there. You know, Monaco are better than the team he was on loan at last year. And listen, we know we've got to get players out the door. So let's hope that leads to players coming in. Big up my brother, Fran, in the chat. Happy Friday, community. Hope we all had a blessed week. Make sure you go and follow him. He's doing some great stuff with the financial advice and stuff like that. So go and follow his YouTube channel, of course. Balogun will not renew, so it's a risk not to sell Balogun this season. When I was in America, Balogun did an interview with somebody from England who was over there. I don't believe the interview's been released yet. And I spoke to him and I said, what's Balogun saying, man? Because the fans are all asking about him. And he said to me, he's a friend of Balogun as well, which is why he obviously got the interview. And he said to me, Balogun loves Arsenal. He said, Balogun is a boyhood Arsenal fan. Thierry Henry is his idol. He loves the club. He wants nothing more than to play for the club. He made no push to be sold. He refused the contract because he wasn't told that he was going to be a main striker at the club. The reality is, Jesus is number 1, Eddie Nketiah is number 2, and Havertz is number 3. They've just paid 65 million for him. Havertz started the Community Shield. Balogun would have been probably the 4th choice striker. He's not going to... Even if you love the club, you ain't going to sit there as a 4th choice striker. And you got to remember, football... When you play football as a professional, even at a lower level, it can create egos. Football has got big egos, big personalities. Balogun's gone from little quiet young player that can't get no game time to 20 plus goals in France, hero of that club that he was at, starts for America. Anybody who watched the games in America or was at the games in America, his name, when they were saying his name on the tannoy, it was one of the biggest cheers in the stadium. I think Saka and Balogun got the biggest cheers because he's an American international. He starts up front for America. All of a sudden, you can tell the way he's acting. He's not the same guy that he was 2 years ago. I'm a big boy now. I've scored 20 plus goals. I scored against PSG away from home. I'm starting for America. I'm going to go to the World Cup. So he's not the same guy that he was. So maybe you could have said to him, sign a new deal, sit down on the bench, play Carabao Cup. Right now, man's saying, listen, bro, he probably thinks he's better than Eddie. He probably thinks he's better than Havertz. He might even think he's better than Jesus. You know, he might look at Jesus and go, well, he got 11 goals last year. I can get more than that. But it's the reality. I think it's probably just a mix that doesn't work. I don't think Arteta really believes that he fits his system. And if a manager doesn't believe you fit the system, ultimately you're going to end up out of the door. And that's the reality of the situation. And listen, all we can do is look at it from our point of view. If he scores 40 goals for Monaco, it doesn't affect us. We just have to take that £40 million and work with it. I hope when the details are revealed that there's a sell-on clause, because it wouldn't surprise me if he scored 20, 30 goals again and he gets a move in 2 years. So I hope we've got a sell-on clause in that deal. Let me get into your super chats. Again, I have saved them all. Don't want anybody to think I'm ignoring them. Joey said, big up from South Texas. How are we always the only team struggling to sell players and scrambling last minute? It's so damn frustrating. I mean, yeah, we are one of the clubs. I think Man United are struggling a little bit. I know, they were desperate to get rid of Maguire and stuff like that. But listen, I'm more interested in what we do. And like I said yesterday, the fact we're trying to sell 7 players in 8 days tells you that something has not quite worked out this summer in terms of player sales. I understand it when you're trying to sell players that are not very good, because the demand for those players is not very high, and anybody who wants them are not going to want to pay decent money for them. But the likes of Tierney, Balogun, Pepe, and whoever who I think are decent players, I think you should be able to get a decent fee. I think what you have to understand with Arsenal as well, we've put a lot of average players on big wages. And, it's very difficult for some of these clubs to pay those wages. So that's where there is a problem as well. Let's hope we get rid of a few more this week. Alex says, Balogun talked himself out of the club with his arrogant interviews during pre-season without knowing what the plan was for him. He should have been humble. Even Kane can't talk like that. I mean, the other question mark with that is that did he already know that he wasn't in the plans? That they already had the discussion, therefore he was trying to open the door. If he hadn't, and he was doing those interviews, it definitely didn't help. He definitely didn't help himself. But we'll never know. Maybe his ego's gone too big. And Arteta probably doesn't like that. So big up Alex. Carl said Nketiah wouldn't even light it up in the MLS, yet he stays. Yeah, he's him and El Neni and Rob Holding. Although Holding hasn't been training with the first team, so his days could be numbered. But El Neni and Nketiah, they definitely got good survival skills. I don't know how they're still here. Simon said could be worse. Liverpool knocked back a 40 million offer to take Alvarez and Enzo from River Plate. Yeah, every club seems to have those, players we missed out on. We've got a whole list of them. Cristiano Ronaldo was at the training ground. He was that close to signing, and he ended up at United. So we got a whole list of them. Dio, big up with the super chat, bro. He said, I have debates with my boy who's a Liverpool fan where he believes Eddie is probably the second best striker in the top 4. Makes it seem like I'm hating when I don't necessarily agree with him. We should expect more, especially for a team like Arsenal. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, just to look at your argument, just to try and add some perspective. I mean, the top 4 last season in the Premier League was Man City. Haaland and Alvarez are better than Eddie. Arsenal, Jesus is better. Man United had Weghorst, so I'll say he's better than Weghorst. And Newcastle had Isaac and Callum Wilson, who I think they're both better. And then you look at Liverpool. Liverpool have got Jota and Gakpo and Nunez, who I'd say all 3 of them are better. So, listen, here's what it is. Here's what it is. We're going to be stuck with Eddie for another season. I just hope Gabriel Jesus can stay fit. Big up to Dio. Big up Yanin, who said Balogun wanted to be number 1. He can't be at Arsenal when Jesus is here. And when we go for Tony, that's a fact. Listen, I hope that happens. If Ivan Toney comes in, you'll be like, Balogun. I'll be like, who's Balogun? I don't even remember that brother there. When Ivan Toney's doing that celebration, you know what I mean? Let's just get Ivan Toney in January and there's no problem. We keep it moving. Southern Guna said, invest the money on a striker. I hate to see him go. That's one thing. £40 million coming in the club. I'm expecting reinvestment. I ain't trying to hear that you're balancing the books. Go and buy someone. Brio said, is he actually a backup? If he was better, he would start above Jesus. He's a backup that plays a lot, and that's what I'm talking about. People say sometimes, I don't mind having a subpar player because he's a backup, but sometimes that player has to play a lot because the one in front of him might be injury prone or whatever. E. Ross said Curtis Shaw the GOAT. I mean, E. Ross, I do tend to agree with that comment. I am joking. Well, I'm kind of not joking, but big up yourself anyway, E. Ross. English Tax Ross. Ivan Toney or Evan Ferguson. I mean, Evan Ferguson, I think, would cost 100 million. We know how Brighton sell players. Julian Alvarez is the second best striker in England, said McLovin, who's a big City fan. I mean, it's crazy, There's now that Kane's gone, there aren't actually that many top quality strikers in the Prem, to be honest. Life with Eddie, season 3, says Hold Up. If Arsenal can't get Tony after he's been twerking, would be unbelievable. Like I said, it was a clear come and get me plea on it. Big up South London's finest, over 2K in the chat. Big up everyone watching on Twitch as well. Nice top, Curtis. Yeah, last season's, man. I still... Do you know what? Brentford this season, I don't know if it was their home shirt or their away shirt, but Brentford decided to keep their shirt for a second season because it was so popular. They also did it because they said they wanted to save their fans some money and things like that. I think this away shirt was so good that Arsenal should have kept it for a second season. Now, in reality, again, people would say it's unrealistic. Obviously, the shirt sales would have slowed down because so many people would have bought it last season, and clubs aren't going to do that. But I would rather Arsenal were playing in this than that bright yellow kit, that's for sure. But, yeah, interesting. Remember the days of 2 seasons for a kit, people? It was a lot different back then. I wish I got that top, said South London's fight. Yeah, I don't... Can you not buy it now? Ghosted said, I'm not capping. That away shirt is one of our best ever. It's up there. It's definitely up there, man. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on, people. We've had a good discussion regarding Tierney and Balogun. The one good thing that we can all agree on is, well, we've got some cash. We've just got £40 million for Balogun, a player that's made 2 Premier League appearances. and we've got £100,000+ a week off the wage bill for Tierney. Hopefully Tierney has a good loan, and we can get him sold for a good amount, or maybe, you never know, he comes back. But what I will say is Arsenal need to reinvest. Now, we're only being linked with one player today, actually. It's not Pierre Schur or whatever that brother's name was yesterday. It's another player. We've spoken about him before, so it's nothing new. But again, Arsenal are being linked with a move for Barcelona winger Ansu Fati. Ansu Fati's agent is George Mendes. And we know now that George Mendes and Edu have a very good relationship when it comes to signing players, getting players done. George Mendes was an agent that Arsene Wenger refused to work with for a number of years because Wenger didn't believe in paying obscene amounts of money to agents. He didn't believe that they were worth it. I suppose on one hand, I can respect it, but on the other hand, you're going to miss out on some top players because, you know, agents are running the game now. That's the reality. Now, apparently, Arsenal are speaking to George Mendes about getting Ansu Fati to Arsenal. He has been sitting on the bench for Barcelona. And again, it's the Euros in the summer, and he wants to obviously play for Spain. Sitting on Barcelona's bench is not going to help his cause into getting into the Spanish team. They've got some good players, and he's down the pecking order at the moment. Now, why are you calling him Fatty? Can you imagine walking around with your Arsenal top with Fatty on the back of it? It's one of them, innit? It's an interesting one, I can't lie. You might have to just put Ansu on the back. But anyway, like I said with this guy, 2 years ago, you're talking about one of the hottest young players in Europe. Fast, direct, can dribble, had so much talent. He's had a bad injury, man. I just don't... I always have concerns when you sign players like this. If you've been injury-prone in La Liga, can you come to the Premier League and handle it? This is one of the most physical leagues in the world. If you're getting him, it needs to be a loan deal, you know, with no obligation to buy. You can't be buying him for big money or obligations to buy because he could come and get kicked all over the place in the Premier League. So for me, wouldn't be at the top of my list. But again, I do think we could do with a winger. The problem you've got is that once again, he's a better left winger than a right winger. He's not a right winger, and we need a right winger. We need somebody to come in and put pressure on Saka and to keep Saka on his toes. This is another left winger. Smith Rowe's better on the left. Martinelli's better on the left. Trossard's better on the left. They are not ideal on the right-hand side of midfield. So it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. And yeah, I'm not sure about this one, to be honest. I'm not totally convinced that Arsenal should be doing this deal. If it was a loan, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But if it's a permanent, I'd stay away from Fatty. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that. One thing's for sure, I think Arsenal will sign somebody before the window closes. Rowan said get Pedro Neto for 25 million. He looked good against Man United the other week. Has he got over the knee problems? Would they sell him for 25 million though? They've just turned down 47 million for was it Nunes? Mateus Nunes? You know, Wolves don't necessarily sell that cheap, especially if it's a player they value. So yeah, we'll have to see. I do like Neto. If he hadn't have had that knee injury, I think we'd have already signed him. We were definitely in for him a couple of years ago. So we'll have to see with that one. Ansu Fati being linked with a move to Arsenal. We'll see if anything develops on that one, people. I'll get into a few of your comments before we move on. Obviously, waffle settings is on the way with Mikel Arteta in the press conference. I haven't seen the press conference. I've seen a few quotes. Obviously, the big news of the press conference is that Gabriel Jesus, according to reports, is available for this weekend. It's not just a case simply of him being back in training. Apparently, he could be fit and available. Commentator, Fatty got subbed. It just doesn't sound right. Yeah, he's going to have to go with Ansu on the back of his shirt if we sign. I can't walk around with Fatty on the back of an Arsenal shirt. It just ain't going to look right, is it, people? One final story before we get into the press conference reaction is this one. I don't know whether I believe this or not, but according to reports, Galatasaray made an offer to Arsenal to sign Thomas Partey on loan with an option to buy. Partey was willing to make the move, but Mikel Arteta was not willing to let the player go. I mean, the source it's coming from, he's a journalist from Turkey. He's got around 86,000 followers. I don't know how good or bad a reporter he is. Everybody that talks about Partey seems to say that Partey's willing to go. Partey would be willing to go to Juventus. Partey's willing to go to Saudi, willing to go to Galatasaray. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe he's unhappy playing inverted right back. You never know. But it's an interesting one. I don't believe it personally. I think that Partey will be here now. There's no way this late in the transfer window we could be selling Thomas Partey. It's crazy. I think he would have been gone weeks ago if there was any truth in this. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. And I think Thomas Partey will stay. There was rumours at the start of the window that he wanted to be out of England, partly due to the fact he's obviously being booed in away grounds. But yeah, I don't believe this one. I don't think there's any problem. Yeah, they can have El Neni on loan. If you want a midfielder, take Mohamed El Neni. You're not having Partey. Anyway, let's move on. It's that time. It is late afternoon. Well, in England, it might not be where you are right now, but if you're peckish, get the syrup out. It is that time, people. It is the cone man himself. Forget Ricky Ross. Forget Aston Martin music. This is Mickey Ross, the boss. Cone man music. I tell you something. If I was Mikel Arteta, I'm having serious words with the press department because that picture is not doing you any favours, bro. They've caught him mid-blink there. And, I wouldn't be too happy with that one. But anyway, we keep it moving. We keep it moving. We're more interested in what he's got to say than the bad picture of him blinking. Let's get through the waffle. You know the drill. If he waffles too much, we skip it. Let's hope there's no spelling mistakes. I don't think there's been any spelling mistakes this year. They're definitely doing their job. On Gabriel Jesus being back in training, he said, we're really happy. Obviously, it was a big blow for him after pre-season that he had to have another surgery, but he's looking really sharp and trained the full week really good, so he's ready to go. Now, that is fantastic news because I'm going to be honest. I had no idea he was back in training, and I'm pretty sure they didn't reveal that because Sky made this big thing out of it yesterday. Oh, Jesus is back in training. The manager's saying he's been back in training all week, so they obviously didn't put any pictures out to keep it quiet. Now I'm in waffles, sipping syrup, about to eat some cottage cheese with that cone man music. Big up yourself. Gabriel Jesus is back. This sounds like he could be involved tomorrow. I wouldn't expect him to start, but maybe we could get him on the bench, get him on for 20 minutes with a view to starting him against Manchester United next week, possibly, which is a massive game. On if Jesus could be involved against Fulham, he said he's ready to go. Yeah, I mean, that is fantastic. That is brilliant. Gabriel Jesus is back. He is back, people. On if Jesus could even start, he said, let's see. It's very good news. It's getting better and better. The waffles are on fire today. On potential outgoings, he said there are some movements happening. Obviously, the last week he's going to be really busy. There's nothing that we can announce at the moment. On Balogun's future, he said we cannot say anything. There are some movements, but we cannot be dragged into individuals because there is nothing concrete. I mean, he won't talk about it until it's announced. On links with Tierney to Sociedad, again, there are things that are not resolved yet. When that is the matter, we will tell you. On the importance of getting a settled squad, it's really important, especially for players. Everybody needs clarity where they're playing and their families. Let's skip it. On transfer speculation surrounding Gabriel, he said, Gabby is a really important player for us, and there is nothing going on with that at the moment. Sometimes I read too much into it, but him saying at the moment, yeah, I don't like that. I would like you to just completely shut that down. Because, he might not mean anything by it, but by saying at the moment makes it almost sound like the door is open. So let's hope not. I do not want to see Gabriel getting sold. That is for certain. Do not sell him. On Fulham, he said, I think what Marco and the coaching staff have done is remarkable. Skip it. On Luis Rubiales, that's the brother who kissed the female player. He's overshadowing the World Cup success. He said, for sure, hopefully it doesn't. He's extremely proud of what they've done. On why he's not lost to Fulham before, he said, I didn't know that stat. That's something new. I'm not even going to read that. How he views Fulham this season. The majority of the group has been there for a while. It's true that Mitrovic gave them a different dimension, but Jimenez is a very proven goal scorer. He's nowhere near the level of Mitrovic. On whether there are any new injury concerns, he says no. It's a skip through today. I can't even lie, people. This one is interesting. I don't know if anybody saw these comments from Mike Dean. Not going to talk about this for too long because I don't like to harp on about referees. Mike Dean basically said that he saw Cucurella when Chelsea played Tottenham, when Cucurella got his hair pulled. Mike Dean saw it, but because Anthony Taylor, who was the ref, had such a stressful game and so many things to deal with, Mike Dean refused to inform the referee because he didn't want to put more stress on Anthony Taylor, who'd had such a difficult game that day, such a stressful game. Now, I'm sorry, but I've said before and I'll say it again, refereeing in England is at the lowest point I've ever seen it. It's absolutely shambolic. They brought VAR in to help and it's got worse. Mike Dean is like, Chelsea could have possibly won that game. I think that's the game where Tuchel and Conte grabbed each other's arm after the game. So you're basically saying I refuse to give a penalty because I didn't want to add some stress to my mate on the pitch. It's blatant cheating. Mike Dean should be sacked. And I just don't understand. I don't understand how you've got the richest league in the world and you've got ridiculous things like that. It's cold-hearted cheating going off. Cold-hard cheating. He should be sacked for that. I can't believe he actually said that in an interview. He must be retiring. He don't care. Yeah, he said, I didn't want to put stress on my mate, so I didn't inform him that Cucurella got his hair pulled. I mean, unbelievable. Premier League, mate, you need to sort out the refs. They're a shambles. But anyway, let's skip through that on how good the Palace win was, especially when you have to play over 30 minutes in those conditions with 10 men. We did it. We showed an incredible hunger and resilience and react against difficult moments. On our team looking strong physically, having been deemed soft in the past. That's something you have to look at every day because the moment that you are not at it in this league, you're going to be exposed. The adjectives that a lot of people use to explain in a defeat or draw, sometimes it's, let's go through it. Audacity to say it on nationwide TV is crazy. It is crazy. Man said that's how I greet Edu with that handshake. And whether he identified something he had to change in terms of I think there was a picture the other day. Palace had a free kick and we had 4 6-foot+ players in the wall. I think it was Declan Rice, Havertz, was it Partey and maybe Ben White or Gabriel? I think maybe there was 4 players who were 6 foot and they were saying, looks much better now, Arsenal having big players in the team, so you can't bully us anymore. I think you do have to have strong players in the Prem. On whether he identified something has to change, he said it's more than that. It's the way you feel the team has to conduct. Transmit. He loves that word. And feel and the way it has to compete, it was very far away. On whether we'll see Rice, Partey and Odegaard as a midfield trio, he said, I think we already ticked that box. We played like that against Man City. On whether it will happen in the league, he said, in the league, what about in the Champions League and the Carabao Cup? We have to play like that in the league. At home or away, for sure, I think it's going to happen. Make sure it happens tomorrow, Mikel. You know what I mean? Just leave all this now. We've had enough of seeing Partey at right back. We've got Man United next week. Play the better system, slap up Fulham, and then go and deal with United. I'm assuming he's cracking a joke there with his answer. I haven't seen the way he said that, but it sounds to me like he's probably cracking a joke. On whether on how he's finding the new touchline rules. He said, I'm used to them already. 1 week done, I am a new man. I said 1 week done, I'm a new man. I won't move from the line. I'm ready to go. I'm being serious. I'm trying my best. I have somebody in the stand. Tomorrow you will see how good I behave. I believe he's cracking jokes here. We got waffle jokes, people. I've never heard it. I might have to see how he was saying this. He's cracking jokes. On whether the rules are difficult for him to adhere to, he said, yeah, it's very difficult, but I will try my best. How big a threat to the Premier League is the Saudi League? He said, it's another competitor. At the end, we are free to decide where players and, yeah. On the money being spent by Saudi, the player has to be willing to go, the club has to be willing to sell, so we still have choices. Good point. On if it's fair, the Saudi Pro League has a 2-week period at the end of our transfer window. He said, no, it's a competitor now. That's my opinion. He is waffling on, but we're getting waffle jokes, people. It's a new Arteta. On Tomiyasu's 2 yellow cards should have been allowed an appeal process. He said, yep, I'd like a retrospective approach on that. We know it's not going to happen. How ridiculous is it, people, that if you get a direct red card, you can appeal it and get your player back? We saw with Alexis McAllister, got sent off, shouldn't have been a red. Liverpool appealed, he's available this weekend. Tomiyasu gets 2 yellow cards, you can't appeal it because it's 2 yellows. Who sits there and creates these rules? Why is there not common sense? It's the richest league in the world and you can't appeal because it's 2 yellow cards. Why not? Who cares if it's 2 yellows or 1 red? It led to the same thing. If it's a dubious red, you should be able to appeal it. Absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, on whether he'd reject any offers from players from the Saudi League during the 2 weeks when we wouldn't be able to replace them, he said the principle would be that, but I cannot make that decision for the club. On how Timber's injury impacts the defensive work done in the summer, he said, you have an idea on the numbers, but obviously there are a lot of things you cannot control, like injuries. It's true we have a lot in that department. It's something we haven't had in previous years. We have used different players in the back line for certain moments. Another thing we cannot control is when a player decides to leave, so we have to adapt. And I've always said, Arteta, I remember in the Man City documentary, Pep was basically saying, when a player wants to leave, he sells them. You know, he doesn't like having to try and convince players to stay at his club. And maybe Arteta's the same. Maybe Tierney went to him and said, look, man, I want out. And he said, okay, we'll let you go, even if it's a loan. We'll get you out of there. Money talks, Big C. Throw the bag at the officials. They need to. They need to get proper refs. Not being able to appeal 2 yellows is one of the most stupid rules I've heard. Did they not think a ref could give a yellow for nothing? Applies the same as the red, 100%. Mike Dean said Anthony Taylor is his mate. Pure cheating, bruv. If I see Partey at right back tomorrow with Havertz starting, I might have to drop kick my flatmate down the stairs. Listen, your flatmate might want to leave the house around 2 o'clock when the team comes out. Wouldn't surprise me if it's the same setup. Shouldn't have to convince players to stay. No, but, you know, I would say that you might be happy in your job, but you might have a day, a week, a month where you start to feel like, you know, maybe I want something different. Maybe I'm not being treated the way, you know, I want them to, you know, I want to be treated. You know, it's sometimes you think you want something else. You know, you might want a different job. You might want to play for another team. Sometimes you need to be convinced. You need the manager to say, listen, I know you're thinking about going there. Look at Bernardo Silva. Apparently wanted to go to Barcelona, just signed a new contract, said that speaking to Pep convinced him to stay. Kyle Walker was being linked with Bayern Munich. At one point, it was apparently close because he thought he wasn't going to be a regular this season, but Pep said, you are going to be a regular, so he had to convince him. So I think if a player's desperate to leave, I don't want to be here, I hate it here, that's different. But if it's just like, maybe I think I could do with a new challenge, sometimes you do have to convince them to stay. So anyway, people, thank you very much for tuning in today. We've been live for 1 hour and 10 minutes, just short of 1 hour and 10. Thank you very much for tuning in. Football Content Awards vote is in the description. If you don't mind voting, all the details are there, would be much appreciated. I've got a preview coming out this evening, pre-recorded, that I did at the Emirates. So look out for that. We'll speak about details for the game tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow, 2:15 p.m. for a 3 p.m. kickoff. Arsenal against Fulham. Obviously, it's not live on TV in England, so I'll be searching for a US stream, VPN settings. Hopefully, it's on Peacock or on a channel over there in the US. But tune in tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll tuck away Fulham. Enjoy your Friday. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. Take care, and I'll see you all for the game, people. Bless.